Hi, everybody. Welcome to the March 30th After Chapter discussions. We will be covering the latest chapter, Chapter 8.77, Chapter 77 of the 8th volume of The Wandering Inn, and the icicle is not back, and the world is ending. There is nothing good about this chapter. It's all just terrible. It's terrible news for everybody, except for the good stuff. That was for Assyria because Assyria is terrible. But welcome. We're gonna get started. Since everyone here has done this before, I'm not gonna cover the rules again. We're just gonna go. Remember to do the basics. React where you're supposed to react. Talk where you're supposed to talk. Don't be a dick. All right, let's get started. First off, we're gonna go ahead and cover my first impressions. I will hold off on my personal first impression and let you guys go first. So, who's up? Who wants to speak?
Man, there was so much plot that went by in this chapter. I mean, just so many things changed at once. With like firearms showing up on battlefields for, the first time outside of Rear and all of that. World's about to get a lot more complicated in a ton of ways.
Yep, that was Kermit for anybody who doesn't know, but it was a pretty interesting chapter in terms of lore dumps. I think I would have preferred a little bit more, developed storyline, but this is another. There was a comment about how the lore dumps felt appropriate, even if it could have been done better. Rosie, you wanted to say something? Go ahead.
Yeah, just initial thoughts, just jumping off what Kermit said. I totally agree. I think a lot of what makes this chapter hard to talk about is there definitely wasn't a lot of breathing room. There was just a lot of shifts of situations, whether that was from the UN breaking up and the, I guess, new group of useless Earthers going to Wistrom. It was not something I expected, but makes a lot of sense to, like you said, we suddenly see something that's been, teased for a while, which is the guns inevitably showing up on the battlefield when you think about how many young people are in an army or have guns, and that those are showing up in being used. And then also that the bombs are finally being used. And so I think just, yes, Karana was useful, but Karana was basically herding cats there. And
Let's
so
be
I think
clear,
it's
we
just,
don't actually know who is part of the group that is going to Wistrom, because also the first thing they say is you can't really help, you can't really do much, right? That was the
yeah.
first thing they said. So I'm still not clear quite what they're doing at the Mages Guild, and it's a very imagine me doing the emote for sus.
Definitely. I will be curious to see if perhaps you're right and maybe something else will happen and they won't actually get picked up by Wistrom. Perhaps we'll get another look into our favorite creepy slaver man, especially because this is Valorous. And yeah, I think really one of the things was just there was a lot of shifts that go on in this chapter, and we didn't have as much setup for them as previous chapters. It just kind of all happened at once, especially with the
Well,
fire going on.
speaking to those shifts, do you think this chapter handled, my personal opinion being yes, do you think this chapter handled the shifting perspectives better than usual?
I think it did, but I think that's more of a benefit from Pirate doing them so much recently. And I think the rushed feeling in some ways, worked well with the fact that, they're on a time limit, the forest is burning. But it definitely meant that I felt some things just were not covered to the length that made me comfortable. And that sometimes in the case of Luan left with very obvious foreshadowing. It was like somebody dropping a giant shadow on the plot with Luan being like, oh man, I gotta get something besides rowing. All right, Luan, because you're gonna row through the air or something soon. Or it meant that things just zipped by. Like I mentioned when we were talking before the recording, that the bomb goes off. We hear that the bomb goes off towards the very end of the chapter. We
We
don't see
think
it.
a bomb goes off. We don't
We
know what
think
we heard.
we think a bomb goes off.
Yeah.
And
It's an explosion. There's multiple ways that the explosion could have happened, but there was an explosion.
Yeah, and that's true, but my point of that is that we see them talk a little bit about it, but we don't see them arguing about whether they should tell these powerful companies that they have a tool like this, that's essentially a fireball or a grand fireball on command by anyone. We don't see them talking about it with the Fraerlings. We don't see them talking about it really amongst themselves. It just kind of happens like that. And so I think that is something that's been missing out after it's been built up and pent up within the UN, of this idea of the bombs being contentious, of Paige having this class that she really doesn't like. I just felt like we maybe lost out a bit on character interactions with the UN because so much of it was rushed that we didn't get to see them really deal with this. The same way people were saying, oh man, we didn't get to see Ken. We kind of got to, cut to the plan after it's happened. And it's
Yeah,
true that that works well, and it did work well. But, part of the wandering in serials is loving to see those moments that often get kind of a narrator's cut like that in a novel. And so I think
yeah.
because Ken's a diplomat and we've all wanted to see him handle himself more in these situations, it was kind of a little bit disappointing. So that's what I mean by, I think the perspective shifts work, but I also think it really made some things feel very raw and unprepared when compared to the rest of the book. I think it was something that was perfect for a novel, but in a serial where we're used to things taking way longer and being way more drawn out and detailed, it just felt a little off.
And on the other side of that, Pirates trying to get to the end of the volume, and there's just no way to. I think they're finally getting to the point where they have finally reached the end of their ability to stretch storylines out by adding detail. They can't write more. They just can't write more. Some comments. Action Kermit says, I'm pretty sure Kirana's priority was getting food for the Fraerlings who left Paith in that dinghy, which probably means she stuck around. And Sivseer says, I hope Blake is staying. Come on, fellow Kiwi, represent the anti-genocide party. Yeah, it's there. I mean, what are you gonna... I don't know. My biggest takeaway from this was the Fraerlings know a lot. The Fraerlings have a lot. And they are just... And I was hoping that they would be just a little bit different, but in the end, Pirate managed to gut punch us with that scene between Luan and the Fraerling who was with him, Noah, and just about fuck us over with the emotional... We're just as small and we're just as afraid as anyone else, and that killed me. That just kills me, because it's true. Here I am. I've been looking for a civilization that actually examines things on a empirical level and thinks about things and has developed it and could actually really understand Earth in a way that nobody else has. And in the end, they're just as limited. And the last stand of the Krellerbane troops with only 5 survivors from hundreds, and it's just... Every moment of it could have been its own chapter, should have been its own chapter in the old style. But time constraints are time constraints, and it's a fair choice to do it this way. It's just, there's so much I wish we could have seen in more detail. There's so many character moments that are so lovely that just don't hit as hard. Also, Rosie, I think with the Luan moment, so Luan's declaration was, to me, a moment of him saying, I need to go beyond the limitations of this class. I can only do one thing well. I've dedicated my life to doing one thing well, rowing, and it's not enough. I have to get something more. If rowing has to get me somewhere better, because it's not enough. I can't just be a better rower. I will be a better rower whether or not I have this class, whether or not anything happens, because that's me. But I can't be the person who fixes all these, who saves all these people. I need to do something better. I demand that the universe give it to me. I mean, that's... I don't know. Does that work? Does that ever work for people? I mean, he's already a peerless. Let's not forget, he's peerless. Kel says, well, 6 years from now, Pirate can revise Volume 8 and double the word count by adding all those moments. Smiley face emoji. Yes, Kel, Pirate definitely can. Civ says, I do sincerely love how Luan gives 0 fucks. I'm the best at this that has ever existed. Well, he's an Olympian. Let's be fair. That's how you have to think. Gotta be good. Asteria says, always strive to do better. Peerless doesn't mean ascension. Okay. I mean, the idea behind peerless is that you're someone who is always reaching for the greatest, right? You're pushing yourself so no one can match you because you're in a place that no one has ever been, and you're blazing the trail for everybody else to follow behind you. Kel says the moment was his Aaron moment, and I loved it and him for that. What do you mean by Aaron moment, Kel? Okay, Kel's gonna type. Does anyone else have a reaction? Any particular thing that reached out to them that felt so good about this chapter? I know this was a really action-heavy chapter, so it's hard to not just devolve into discussing the specific lore drops and bits and bobs. There wasn't a lot of depth to it. Oh, I skipped over Mel. I apologize. Mel, you're up. Yeah, when you have your mic fixed? No, we cannot hear you. When you have your mic fixed, yeah, come back. Okay. Asteria says in response to Cal's comment that it was an Aaron moment. Aaron hasn't progressed there yet. Well, she did have that one moment where she wanted skills to protect her friends, but she hasn't maintained a drive to want to be the best and all that. We have seen flashes when she does that for other people, but not for herself. Kel says finally that that Luan realized there's more to life than rowing. He has friends. He can't help them much as he is. He has to step up and change and be more. And he refuses to take up a weapon, so that's a whole nother thing, right? Pat's been typing a while, so I'm kind of waiting before I move on, guys. Okay, Pat says it's the time has come for you to do more than just run moment. Yeah, although it didn't work out so well for Ryoka because she took it the wrong way and ended up doing dumb things. But that's Ryoka. Maybe Luan will be better off. Still can't hear you, Mel. Verve is commenting, and then I'm going to move on to one of my topics. We're going to cover about 5 topics really quickly, and then we will do the questions. I'm going to ban you, Asteria. Remember what we said about not talking in the reactions? Aren't you the one who come up with the rules? What are you doing? If you have a comment that you want to read out, type it or ask to speak. Comrade Verve says, Ryoka did a smart thing, and 1, Ryoka did a smart thing, and 2, Luan might in the future get the ability to carry more people or even make the water flow under him on land. I think that's a little too simplistic from my point of view as an evolution of his class, because he truly, I don't know, he wants more than just to be a rower, right? He wants to be able to save and help people. I don't think just being able to go on water from water to land is enough. It wouldn't be enough for me. Okay, we're going to.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now, Mel.
Ah, wonderful. Sorry about that. So you did not skip me. You and Rosie talked about some of the stuff I wanted to talk about, so I removed myself from the queue. So you're all good there. What I wanted to talk about is that this chapter I feel really sets up for a lot that's going to happen in Volume 9, in that there's a lot of questions that have been asked in this chapter that are going to need to be talked about more about in later chapters, specifically about guns and how, in fact, Noia was wrong. She thought guns aren't going to be an issue, that levels will overcome them, but all of a sudden, Fiona, level plus 60 rogue, was almost taken out by a level
Fiona?
20 something. Yes.
You mean Foliana?
Foliana, thank
Yeah.
you. Also, there's a lot of questions about Drath that really need to be talked about. I really feel that this is a big setup for Volume 9. And I also agree that I kind of feel this chapter was pushed along by plot, but it was supported by that we knew the characters already. We didn't need too much character development to see the plot move the way it did. And I do agree with you that Pirate Alba is on a time constraint, and I fully recognize that, and I'm okay with it at this point. because we're getting some really cool stuff happening right now, and I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, we're gonna come back to the guns topic explicitly, and how it interacts with Magnolia later, because I have a giant question for everybody. That was going to be one of mine. So Civ says the pirate captain whose name I'm forgetting can ride a wave on land. See infamous boat chapter. That's Racia. Yeah, and that's a giant boat that rams into people, which is a little different than a skull. Magnolia says. Sorry, Pat says Magnolia didn't actually think guns weren't going to be an issue. She just didn't want Ryoka to know that when they were talking. Pat figures out something that about 400 million people don't seem to be able to pick up on. Okay, guys. So we're going to move on to the topics. First up, levels. So this chapter had a lot of revelations as far as skills, as far as abilities go. We finally see, I think we have a decent idea of the skills that Ken can bring to the table, that possibly he's evolving. Luan, we finally get to see he's a peerless, what was it, peerless rower? No, what was his class? Anybody remember? Whatever it was, he's
Peerless Marathon Scholar.
Yeah, Peerless Marathon Sculler, and he's got some really cool abilities. We see two classes that are explicitly gunpowder classes, I'd say, including one that had a red class attached to it, and they showed specific skills that pierce magical abilities, and there were specific abilities that interacted with guns, like that replicated things like buckshots and spray shots that are done in our world through more technique and different ammunition. What did you guys think of it? Because I was like, holy shit, there's a gunpowder? Somebody got killed. Let's be real. Treacherous gunslinger, whatever the fuck it was, somebody killed somebody and stole guns and shit. Okay. Assyria asks, what did everyone think of Luan's new skills? Civ says, everyone keeps being like, Magnolia was wrong, but Magnolia was totally right. Antinium with guns is terrifying, and that's what she's afraid of. That red class almost certainly murdered Eartha for that gun. Absolutely. And since it had tactical grenades, specifically little grenades that blow up when the pin is pulled from them, motherfucker, that was a military boy. Action Kermit says, well, because think about it. The only grenades that somebody could produce is either it's got to be a grenade on whatever the engineer girl from the UN produces on that level, or it has to be a grenade that is stable, because she used the stab everything skill and it stabs everything. So how else did it get off? The only thing I could think of is that it stabbed into the fucking grenade and blew it off. So it had to be something that was defended well enough that it would be set off by a stab. That's not how it works. It's only when the pin is taken out, because the pin has a tiny charge that lets it blow up. So it had to be a pinned grenade. It's logical deduction on my part. Kermit says enchanted guns plus gunslinger classes are going to turn warfare upside down. I don't know about upside down, but it'll definitely change things. Courier says specifically, we didn't see that at all. It was just a knife in a cluster. I follow your point, but saying it's something specific is just hearsay. Okay. She did not target the person with grenades with the stab everything. She set it off, checking the body that was actually dead. Civ says, I did love how Kara mentioned how America was talking about giving everyone over 12 a gun, and then we see a direct result of that. More Earthers arriving with guns. We assume. Here's the thing. I tried to gauge how long those guys had their guns, because one was over level 20, one was around 13, and he had a treacherous class, right? So they had to have had the guns long enough that they gained those classes, leveled them up to that ability, and gained those abilities. And they were fairly specific abilities. So I don't know if it's the recent batch. It might be the last batch of Earthers that came in, and they just didn't talk about it. That's all. But guns levels, anyone know anything like cool other than? Oh, Civ says I missed the prime grenade part. Mel says if the isekai summoning ritual is meant to bring over young people with lots of potential, it makes sense that there are young military personnel that have been brought over. What is strange is that we have not seen more of them. I agree, but I would point out that when the description of the spell given by the gods is essentially something that trawls for the best. It's indiscriminate at what the best is. There are only so many military personnel that will qualify. So likely that's why we haven't seen as many of them, because the best Marine, the best soldier is only going to be like one or two people, right? Asteria says, I wonder if this mention of the guns means we will see more of Flora over the next month, even just her reaction. I don't know how we would see her reaction or how she would even know about guns, because we saw one distinct hidden thing where it was a fight between an invisible person and two people who are clearly not revealed to everybody. Maybe the bombs in the fight in Telanquil will set things off, but even then, I highly doubt it. She's just not directly connected enough to see that kind of thing. Kel says it's hard to say with timelines. The guns could have been found on bodies or changed hands several times until they made it to someone who would actually fix them / figure them out. When we saw the description for the guns, I distinctly remember, correct me if I'm wrong, that people were too afraid to test them. So it makes me wonder if the person that was transported here was dangerous, killed a bunch of people, and then they finally managed to kill that person and steal his guns. And the treacherous part might have something to do with, backstabbing and then stealing the guns. Polric says, I wish we got more of Flora, Callidas, and Sylvania, period. True, but, we can only get so much. Assyrius says, gun senses are like goth senses. They sense each other's presence. No, I don't think that's how it works.
That would be hilarious, though.
Yeah, that would have been hilarious. The Polric says, the two new weapons that No Smith had... he's quoting something from the thing. Oh, okay. Okay, here's a question for everybody. Do you think that the damage was bad enough that the guns are irreparable?
I'd say no, just because we've seen in the past that a repair spell can do a lot. I mean, considering you can repair a phone, which is infinitely more complex than a gun, the only thing I can imagine it can't repair is if there is enough of the material missing. As we saw, Terriarch didn't repair when he made a copy of Ryoka's phones. He did like recreate or something from a small fragment of it. So you can't duplicate it using repair. And I imagine the same holds that after a certain threshold of amounts lost, it also can't be repaired. So potentially no, but potentially yes. Depends on how much, of the gun is left after Foliana explodes on it.
The description was that there was only scrap metal left behind, so I got the sense that it was done. But Civ says, yes, Foliana stabbed everything, Oshi. I don't know. I guess I said something that reaction. Okay. Mel says those pieces be scrap metal now. Lynette says Foliana was holding a piece of mangled metal, which means they don't have all the bits. And then reconstruct in the brackets. Civ says Terriarch Eldavin probably could repair it, but an average mage, no. Also proximity to the grenade that went out. Comrade Burv says it said they lay in pieces, and I feel like they're small pieces seeing how they were next to a grenade. Also, repair wasn't able to fix a table that Yvlin cut. That's true. Once it's damaged enough, it might just be irreparable. Okay. Now we're going to move on to the topic, unless someone has anything specific about skills and leveling and all the things that we saw with the classes and the folks. Yeah, Civ mentioned that he liked... I thought Ken's skills were great. I do wish we had seen more of Ken's abilities as a diplomat. I mean, he successfully went around to 19 different companies, convinced them to sign some piece of paper, and did it in a way that actively made sure that even if the Featherfolk Brigade succeeded in whatever task they were doing, they were done as a mercenary company. No one would work with them because they would be the equivalent of murderers. And everybody knows that they are going after the city. So if they do manage to get something, assuming they're super fucked up, those companies will be like vultures and they'll come in and take it from them. Because why wouldn't you? I mean, Ken did it in the perfect way. Carrot and stick. He made sure the companies knew what they were doing, and he did it in a way that if the Featherfolk Brigade backed off, no one could hurt them. But if they didn't, regardless of what happens, they're dead as a company. There's no way they'll survive. No way they'll get anything. It's just not possible. Ken was, and it's kind of sucked that there wasn't enough elucidation of Ken's tactic in this, because I think a lot of people missed it. Asterius says, Foliana's skills, she got that red skill, right? She does not have a red skill. I don't know where you saw that, but she does not have a red skill. Comrade Burv, I have something to say related to Luan and the Olympics when the conversation gets there. Okay, sure. Actually, no, we'll get there.
Cognita, Niers, and Foliana have met dragons, as we've seen where Foliana talks about her skill and how it didn't work on dragons or dragon hides. So I just wondered, where could these dragons be, as it doesn't seem like they've met Terriarch or Rafema / Sire, and Civ brought up that Foliana probably met the dragon Tome killed, and I'm inclined to agree because Niers also knows that Tome killed a dragon, but I also point to 814 where Niers said he has met dragons, so there's more than one.
Yeah, but the skill is explicitly all but dragon hide. So it makes me think maybe not so much. Yeah, because, and Civ explicitly mentions that it's also possible that Dragonhide is a unit of measurement in the world that they've managed to keep over the years and not forget, which could be, or it could be a handed down skill that's explicitly attached to that, and she managed to qualify for it and was granted the skill. Comrade Burv says, I'm of the opinion that Foliana thinks it wouldn't pierce Dragonhide because the skill literally says so. Yeah, I'm of the same opinion. Asterius says maybe Foliana is a dragon friend, she doesn't want to hurt them, or is an ally or something, so her skill excludes them. I guess? Sure? Maybe? Okay. I'm going to move on from the skills and levels topic to lore dumps. This chapter had probably answered two of the biggest, longest running questions. Are there gnomes left? No, they're all dead. Are there elves left? No, they're all dead. We know they're dead. It's been cleared up. The mystery is dead and gone. Ding dong, the witch is dead. Elves are dead. They are gone. Gone forever. And they've died out. It's the third person saying they died out. And there is a logical, if anticlimactic, reason for it. They just bred themselves out into non-existence. There is nothing else to it. They bred themselves into non-existence. What is interesting, though, is the gnomes deliberately chose not to have children and to die out. And that they're called the second furthest travelers. Now, in traditional media, gnomes are usually considered fae themselves, or attached to fae in some way. So I wonder what Pirate's interpretation of that is. Assyria says half-elves remain, their descendants, they're not elves. Civ says, unless you subscribe to the elves, our fae theory, Oshi and the ones who stayed in in-world are dead. Yep, I tell you, they're dead. I'm telling you, they're dead. Did anyone notice any kind of lore stuff they want to chat about? Or anything that particularly jumped out to them? I did love the Fraerling bit about how the Krellerbane troops were specifically made to kill Krellers, and that the Frere folk were involved in the war with the Krellers. So that means that they were killing. I mean, it's been spoken about that hives had millions of little Krellers. So can you imagine the amount of shit that they went through? Comrade Burp says, you can't breed yourself out if you don't age, unless elves reproduce like bees where they explode after doing the dirty. So the breeding yourself out bit, Comrade Bird, I'm saying is, if you're immortal, instead of having sex with other elves, you had sex with half elves, and they will only produce half-elves, so you never have anything but half-elf kids, and then you get old and tired, and you're sad, and then you die, and there's only a couple of you left, and you're all dead. And there's no one left, so technically they did breed themselves out. Mel says Fezamet had the chance to save the Featherfolk Brigade by stepping down and taking Ken's bribe. He would lose control of the brigade, but it would survive. Instead, he did. Yes, that was my point. What I was talking about like 15 minutes ago. Kel says Kitsunes. That is all. Yep, we had the appearance of the Droth, and specifically the appearance of a Kitsune. I loved it. I didn't even know how many tails it had. I didn't know what the translation tablet was. I don't care. It was cool. It was fucking cool. We had cultivators. We had Kitsune. Ed says, I thought maybe there are elves and gnomes somewhere in the Fey realm. There might be, but I don't think they are from the world. Polaric mentions Tyrannus. Sounds pretty cool. Tyrannus, the glass continent, as was mentioned. Someone on Reddit thought it was literally a glass continent. The idea that maybe it's a title or a euphemism for something. Yeah, that seemed to have passed. I mean, you call Balaros the jungle continent. That doesn't mean the entire thing is jungle. Burv says, but you don't get old and tired because you're... No, yes you do. You get old and tired. Look at Terry. Mel says Droth, Kitsune's cultivation. Okay. Ren says the Kitsune... Yeah. Leave me alone. I think it's Kitsune. I know it's supposed to be Kitsune and all that. That's how I've been saying it for years, so I just leave it alone. Asteria says, and then the Kitsune was a talking head. The gore of this chapter was high. That is true. There was a lot of, blood, but it's Balaros, so I'm not sure what to say about that. Stiv says, a bird flies over you carrying a rock, and it hits you in the head and you die. A sinkhole appears below you by pure cosmic chance, you die. You have all of time to trip and fall down the stairs and snap your neck. Exactly. Polaric says, in response to Mel, also the Doom Killers, Edgeworld Hunters, and Abyssal Slayers that Kisselt mentions. Any connection to the Vortex of the Abyssal King used by Bellavere in 8.28. Why are you guys coming up with these questions after I pass by not into the next section of the... I hate you all. I think that might just be a connection in terms of, terminology, not a direct connection. Because Abyssal Slayers likely mean explicitly slaying the Seawalkers. Courier says, look at this dragon, that's why elves don't get tired. We literally have a tired old half-elf which tangentially related to immortality fatigue. Yeah, Yes. So there was a lot of lore. I appreciated Pirates' lore dumping. I also hated them for it. Because in a moment, Pirate answered a lot of questions, but in the most mundane of ways. And I feel like they're lying to us because, narratively speaking, forget the narrative, forget anything else. Logically speaking, everyone has a perspective. Everyone has pieces of the knowledge. The truth is never one thing. It's always a variation of many things. And we don't... I don't know. I always get the feeling that maybe we never know the whole of it. But Droth, and there was really cool leveling shit from these Doom Killers and Edgeworld Hunters and clawing his eyes out and whatnot. Okay, so give a few seconds to see if anyone else has anything to say, and then I'm going to move on to the next topic.
You mean what we liked about the lore?
Is there something about the lore you want to discuss? Did you like something? Did you hate something? Was there something important that you noted that was missed on? What is the connection to the real world stuff? What commentary do you have on the lore?
I loved the look we got of the last box with the inscribing and the inscription, and the fact that it's not just a box where you solve puzzles, but some of the pieces might not even be on this plane of existence. Yeah, that was fascinating to me. And the fact that they can walk around it and through it, and there are doorways, and I don't like puzzle games, but I wanted to stare at it. That's great.
You know what it reminded me of? The D&D, so Critical Role, if anybody knows what Critical Role is, they had a whole thing where there was an object that was bigger on the inside than it was on layout. It transported you to another dimension. And then there was like these puzzle things. That's what I thought it was. That's what I thought the box would be. A sort of pocket dimension where they hid tons of different pieces of knowledge and that would all come out when you solve different puzzles. But it seems even more complicated than that. Asir says, tearing off the heads of the Fraerlings and their limbs, I wanted to vomit. Yes, but, I mean, let's be fair. That's war. People do worse things, just big bodies. Imagine what they do to small ones. Civ says, I like the Dullahan Kraken destroyers. It's just a big island. That makes sense. Absolutely. I thought it was great. They just moved a literal island around in the water. That's how I don't even know how they keep it afloat. Burf says, Tilm prioritizes people over getting his dragons. That was a nice detail. We've mainly seen him being an asshole in the story, but he really could be a hero in his own story. Honestly, I've never seen him as an antagonist in any way, because the whole reason that people are angry at him isn't because of his personality or his personhood. It's because he fucked with Perron. Let's be real. He injured his teacher. That's why people were pissed at him. They weren't pissed at him for being a strategist, for being a bad person, for being evil. None of them were pissed about that. They were just pissed that he hit his teacher. And I would be too. And Kel says, Critical Role, Mighty Nine, the Happy Fun Ball. Exactly, that's what I'm referring to. Verb says, I don't like him, and I really never gave a second thought to the Perron thing. That was the whole central casino. Am I the only one who noticed that that's what everybody was pissed at him about? Like, he hurt his teacher. He went to fight against his teacher, and then he explicitly tried to kill her in a situation, but instead of killing her, he permanently injured her. So Perron Fleetfoot can never run again. How does everybody miss that? It's like family drama time. Like, am I the only one? Civ says, I thought they were mad because he killed a baby dragon. Why would they be mad about that? Who the fuck cares about the dragon? Mel says, gnomes left push here in case of emergency buttons in the box. Will we get to see a Deus Ex Machina soon for Paith? I don't think so, because Paith is a descendant city and they've been destroyed before, and the box probably could have activated then. Asir says, no, I agree, and killing the baby dragon thing. I don't know what that means, but good that you agree. Courier says, Dullahans have thought about killing children. Dullahans don't kill children. I'm clinging to that. I'm clinging to that. Asir says, okay. Okay. Alright. Okay. There's nothing else to talk. Alright. So that's it for lore. I'm gonna open a topic. I mean, it leads right into the next topic, Tulm. Not just Tulm, but the end and what he saw when he arrived at the border fleet. The fact that the border fleet is one named, and thus likely only one of the border fleets, that it hired mercenaries, it went super emergency and tried to kill all of them, and then it failed? Holy crap. You know what, though? The one moment that did piss me off was Pirates started writing this whole speech for the fucking Kitsune, and they were going to go through this whole formality bullshit. The world is ending! Bitch, what the fuck are you doing? What the fuck? I was about to blow a gasket. We already had Dioname, or however you say it. I can't say the Greek name. I know there's a proper pronunciation for it. Dioname. Just do that. Like, I was so super pissed. And then, of course, she stopped herself and actually presented the right idea. I would have blown a gasket. Kel says that was pretty specific, called out as exactly that. There were situations with Paith's box that should have triggered it if it had those safeguards in regards to Paith's box. Civ says, I can think of a few teachers I could think of a few teachers I would be completely fine with murdering. I feel like you're blowing this out of the water, Oshi. It would be rejecting Perron's teaching to do anything but kill her, to be honest. I saw it as Tolm's misguided attempt at mercy. Disagree. Heavy disagree. Burv says some people actually care about appearances, Oshi. When the world is ending and your body is cut out in half and you're watching as Seamwalkers try to murder you, and your job and duty is to tell the world before you die? Come on. Lynette, you're up.
My opinion on the formality that she was doing, I think that when you're at the end of your rope and things are at their darkest, I think falling back onto procedure can be comforting when you are scared out of your fucking mind. I think that only Tome poking her and going, what do you that's the only thing that shook her out of this and made her realize that, you know what, I don't have enough time for this. Let's actually get to the meat of the problem and get away from the formal stuff. Because the formal stuff, the actual procedure, the ritual of it can have its own rhythm, can be comforting, can be, you know what, I just died. I just died and I'm scared and I still have to tell people what happened and I don't have time to freak out about it. So let me just breathe and go through all the steps. That's my opinion.
Okay. Civ says that's the best time, Oshi. Keep your appearances till the end of the line. Burr says there's never an excuse not to not be a gentleman. Gentleman callers. Quoting the gentleman callers. And Courier says she was not in a good state of mind, for fuck's sake. Fuck that. I disagree heavily. I still think she should have just, spilled the beans and given precision information. She's a military person. She would have been trained in this. There's no reason why she would risk the end of the world by not properly reporting. That's just bad training and bad behavior. I don't care how formal you are. The best formality is understanding what to do, when to do it in the most appropriate way. And in that situation, the most appropriate thing was to report well, quickly, and efficiently, and then be formal. Yeah. Courier says, you're telling me she should break containment by directly saying what the threat is? The threat is the Seamwalkers. Everybody knows it's the Seamwalkers. That's what they fight.
They don't.
Courier. We know they only...
No, we don't.
Yes, we do. She explicitly talks about the...
People know, not everyone. It's not an open secret.
What the fuck are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
The Dullahan are their allies. They know about this.
That doesn't matter.
Why would that not matter to the person talking to a Dullahan?
Because she's barely sober. She's dying. And sorry, I shouldn't have interrupted.
Okay, I'm gonna pass on to the next topic, and then we're gonna wrap up. Okay. So, we know the world is coming to an end, and everybody and Pirate has announced their poll, and it's all Aaron chapters. So we're getting Aaron back, or at least we're getting into Aaron. What do you guys think is going to happen next? Anyone have any speculations as to how we're getting Aaron back? Is it going to work out, considering it's Pirate ABBA? Do you think the revival will go off without a hitch? What's going to happen?
I think one of the spoiler tech was Aaron of Keld, and there's a theory that Aaron's going to be teleported to Keld, I guess. And I think the chapter will end when Aaron waking up in Keld. That's all. I don't know how we're going to get there, but I think this is how Volume 8 is gonna end. Aaron waking up there. Don't know how, but
yeah. Kel says everybody knows they fight Seamwalkers. Kisselt knew and told Luan like it was common knowledge. Civ says Aaron and Lacan Oshi. Lacan is going to win. I believe in my boy. I don't know how, but okay. Kel says I refuse to hold my breath. I fear a rug pull. Asteria says that brings up my question. What did the Emperor need to know if the creepers are common knowledge? Just because they're common knowledge doesn't mean you don't need to know that there's a giant army in the Death Realm about to break through and come to every single land at the same time. Action Kermit says, Pirate has said it's going to be like the last book of Wheel of Time, so disasters are to be expected. Mel says, Aaron is going to be Aaron so that Aaron can be Aaron. That's pretty much what Aaron will do. That's a thing. Ren says, I think it will fail and then it will be successful. Oh god, that's way too likely. Burb says, my super crack theory is that Pebble Snatch's religious faith in the door is going to allow Aaron to use it in the Deadlands to return to Lascore and then blow the horn to summon her allies, all of them, to the inn in the living world. Burb, what horn? What are you talking about? What horn? The god horn? What god? Well, wait, I thought she could only conjure one of the god gifts.
No, because the horn or the umbrella and the sword are both active at the same time.
Also, she could technically get the other two. What is it? The noose and the horn? What does the horn do exactly? What was the line from the thing? What does the horn do? It toots. Yes, Kel, it toots.
If you blow it, if you toot, I think somebody who's close to you or an ally will always hear it. Or something like this, that you're in danger. When Eren blew it, I think Ryoka is somewhere far, far away. When she was with the lake and she hears a horn.
Oh, right, the sword isn't a god gift. I apologize, but the god gifts are the noose, the horn. Did the god of magic offer anything? No, he wasn't there. So it was the noose, the horn, and the umbrella.
Umbrella.
Yeah. Okay. Horn summons your ally. She tooted it, and Ryoka heard it a long distance away. Okay, but how would that help with dealing with the Seamwalkers? How does the horn change the situation? Yes. Oh, yes. So Emerhain did offer the noose. I still don't understand the significance of the noose because I just don't understand what it will do. String Hermit says horn could possibly be heard by the dead in other realms, like the goblins. Kel says Ryoka heard it when the fires were dying and she was facing the three gods in the winter. Pat says Noose was Emerhain. Civ agrees and says Dancing God offered the horn. Pat says let your friends die instead of you, obviously, in reference to the Noose. Mel says the Noose lets Eren hide from the Seawalkers. That's true, but that doesn't seem like an Eren thing to do. Asteer says maybe the people or Actilios. Civ says just gotta tie the noose around the entire world, and now the gods and Seamwalkers think the ghosts are double dead. Evan says noose would deceive even the gods. That is true. It's a good way to hide someone from the gods, but how does that... That is really cool, actually. Lynette, in response to Berg's crack theory, says... Oh, I don't have to read this. The noose... Burp says the noose might be used to trick the Seamwalkers into not killing Eren in the Deadlands. This is all true. But this doesn't really solve the problem of the Seamwalkers. They're clearly about to break through. They're going to invade the world. The Deadlands are going to be dead. They have no one to save them. Nothing can stop the Seamwalkers. Even if they do, they're still going to destroy the defenses, and in the process, the gods will eat them up afterwards. So they're all doomed. There is literally nothing I can see. Pirates written themselves into a corner from my perspective. How is this... What's going to happen? Like, where are they taking this? I have no clue. It's a little exciting, but at the same time, I'm just confused. So Lynette says, Sariant lambs to the rescue. That's true. The conspiracy will save us all. Evan says, if Eren uses the noose in the Deadlands, then her body can't be possessed. Maybe. Ren says the noose is a reference to Odin, who gained knowledge by hanging himself from Yggdrasil. At least that's what I thought when I first read it. I know the reference in the real world, but Pirate's been twisting the references just a little bit. And the noose has a lot of different variations. There's also the noose around, I think, what was it, Cain or something? So there's a Judeo-Christian aspect to it. Kel says Eren uses the noose to get past the ghost to get back to Israel and her body? I guess. Oh, that you mean like they try to get her to the inn, and that's how they use the noose. Like she crosses the divide that way. That could be a use. Okay, but I'm gonna do a short poll just to react to this poll. Is Eren going to be back by the end of this volume? Yes or no? Hold on. Hold on. Just react to this with a Y or a... What the fuck? twos. Why did someone react with a D?
Because it's funny.
Fuck you. Fuck
Are you
you.
just ignoring my responses now?
I'm not. I'm trying to do something, Asteria, before we get to your responses. Maybe give me a second. Where's the sus option? Okay, we added a sus option, so sus option. There you go. I'm gonna give you a few seconds, and then we'll let Asteria speak, and I'll report the thing. I just need to breathe for a second. Okay. I think most of the responses are in. We've got 10 yeses, 3 nos, 5 sus, and a bunch of random shit. So, general consensus is yes. Okay, and Ren says one of the Orisha would ritually hang himself every year to represent cycle of life and fertility. Yep. Asir, you're up. You're good.
Okay, so switching back to Aaron, well, from Aaron's revival, but you mentioned that you didn't think anybody or anything could combat the coming creepers or whatever.
That's the impression that the chapters are giving us.
What about the Acetalash people? Was that addressed?
That was never addressed. That was never talked about. They're cousins to Actilios, and the impression I got is that even if they could use it, why would they? The thing's also trying to eat the world.
Well, so because I think this is a prime opportunity for what Pirate does best, right? Pirate always, with very few characters, is not black and white about things, right? Things are always gray. We have Trey's like, I must kill everything kind of related to Acetalash. We've really not seen anything good other than the 100 Friends guy. This would be an opportunity to sort of make that a little bit grayer, right? So if they're the ones stepping up as the only ones that can fight off these like creepy stream seamwalker things, I think that's what's going to end up happening. That or the aliens are going to end up combating them.
What would be interesting is if Civ's theory is correct. I think Aaron takes all the ghosts in the Deadlands and pushes them somewhere else, i.e. Pawn's Heaven. Now that would be cool. If she manages to essentially draw all the dead and open a path to another place where their souls can be preserved until the Deadlands are safe, effectively abandoning the Deadlands and leaving only the ghosts and the gods behind. I could see that as being a temporary victory because eventually the Seamwalkers will break through into the real world, but the dead will be, quote-unquote, alive, at least. Evan says there are clearly people who can individually kill Seamwalkers, however, killing them all, survival is hard. Civ says, I mean, the Deadlands suck, Oshi. Let them stay in Pawn's Heaven. Maybe. We don't know what Pawn's Heaven's like. Mel says the aliens with the stick taped to their spaceship saves everyone is a valid way to save the world. Ed goes, Aaron is gonna rebuild. I have no idea what Sinyata Haven itself.
Just ignore it. Sorry.
Okay. But
also, Oshi, don't forget that even though Droth suffered that big defeat, right? Maybe they were caught unprepared. They're the ones that have been set up to be combating all the stuff that's coming over the last tide.
none of that helps the people that we care about.
Well,
Droth can survive.
We're talking about a world, right? World ender, right? So
we're talking about, from the story's perspective, what's going to happen to the people we care about in the story. If everybody in the story is dead, but Droth survives, that doesn't really help us.
Well, no, I think we're going to end up losing a number of our characters that we do care about, but the people who are going to step up and save those who are left, right, is going to be Droth or the Acetalosh people. Which means new characters, and more Kitsune.
Okay.
I want some of what you're eating.
I mean, that's some good copium right there, but I'm not sniffing it. Mel says the alien. Okay, sorry. Kel says we have a general idea of Pawn's Heaven. It's safe and peaceful, and there's good food and Aaron and fortresses of fluff. Courier says the entire point of Droth is that people are able to step up, and who says it blew up because they lost? Kitsune. Mel says Kitsune for the win. Cosmic Chaos says if they're the only POV left in the world, then we can finally see Droth. Silver linings! Y'all are such fatal... Okay, you know what? Your fatalism will not draw me in. I want answers. I don't want copium. Okay, but we are done with today's recorded part of the discussion. We're going to have all the questions post-discussion, and it's going to be more free-form. Thank you all for listening in. If you guys have any comments...
did we not have any squeeing on Lynette's part about Fraerlings or Signium?
There was no Signum. Signum does not exist. Stop talking about Signum.
Signal's a lie.
Out of all the lore drop that we did or did not get,
I talked about lore for nobody said anything, so I moved on. So
out of all the
thanks for
lore we
coming.
did or didn't get,
Assyria, let me do the extra, and then you can,
fine.
please. So thanks for listening in, everybody. If you are listening and if you happen to want to, oh, there's one more topic we'll talk about. Burv wants to speak before we close up, so go ahead, Burv.
Hello, Comrade Burv here. One thing that I think the story has been setting up, it's been asking, like, oh, what are we going to do in the long term to stop wars from happening? Like, Magnolia's trying to make that happen, etc. I think that the story is setting up that somebody from Earth is going to remake the Olympics, pull an Aragon, that have, like, around the world competing in, sports or combat or things like that, using the scrying orbs and making a whole event out of it to try to stop the wars that are constantly happening. And I think Luan will honestly play a part in that. Like, that would be a way for him to make something that wouldn't be war, that still lets people compete against it.
The equivalent of replacing wars with tournaments, like they did in the Middle Ages, with
Right.
jousts. Yeah, that's a cool idea. Okay.
There was another example of that happening with the weightlifting in the inn. How, like, nobody really cared about it until Drakes and humans started competing, and then it became a whole thing. I honestly think that's where that plot is going.
I don't know. I mean, Luan is like, I don't just want to be a rower. I want to be something. I want to save all these people. So maybe not. Who knows?
All right, that's all I had to say.
Yeah. Okay, so going back again with the extra. So thanks everybody for listening. So for those who are listening, I don't know how many of you out there are listening to the after chapter discussions on YouTube, but if you are, come talk to us about it. There is a No Killing Goblins email that you can go to, and if you guys want to submit things to talk about, or just questions for the group, or just want to just chat with us in some way, even if it's in a delayed way, please come talk to us, send us a mail. We're trying it in the No Killing Goblins podcast as well, where we just pick up some discussion topics and try to talk about them with you guys. So if you're not able to make it, if you still want to discuss it, I'm going to try the next time I do this, if I get enough mail, we'll do a little section where we read out some emails and talk about people's opinions about the chapter and reactions to things. Please send it. I mean, we do this right the day after, so if you manage to read it within a day or two and just send us a mail, we'll read it. You'll be part of the discussion, even if you can't be here. Thanks for listening. Have a good night, everybody.